بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
لا سيما بقية الله في الأراضين عجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علمك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. We talked about different methods of interpreting the Qur'an. One method, which is the best method, is to interpret the Qur'an by the Qur'an. So, because the Qur'an is a book of guidance, the Qur'an is kitab al-mubin, the Qur'an is tibyan and kulli shay, explains everything. So it should itself be clear. You cannot have something which is meant to guide and be not clear, or something which is mubin, it's not clear, or is tibyan kulli shay, it's not clear. So the Qur'an is clear. But when we say the Qur'an is clear, it doesn't mean that every verse is clear. Because we said, Qur'an itself says, some verses of the Qur'an are muhkam, some are mutashabih. Minha ayatun muhkamat wa ukharu mutashabihat. Some of them are muhkam, some are mutashabih. Mutashabih means they can be interpreted in different ways. Muhkam means they are firm. We can understand mutashabahat with the help of muhkamat. Then those mutashabahat themselves become muhkam. Then you can make other mutashabahat clear with those muhkam. So for someone who is rasikh fil ilm, ar-rasikhuna fil ilm, those who are very established, nothing remains at the end mutashabah. But for us, is a process. To begin with, there are more mutashabahat, but little by little, they become more muhkam. But you need to be familiar with the entire Qur'an. You cannot only take one ayah or one surah and understand. Al-Qur'an yufassiru ba'duhu ba'da. Al-Qur'an yashhadu ba'duhu ala ba'd. Some of it interpret another part. Some of it bear witness over other part. So, if you want to understand the Qur'an, you have to be familiar with the entire Qur'an. Maybe something is mentioned in Surah Hamd, but with the help of something in Surah Al-Imran, it becomes clear. For example, when we say, اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم. Okay, who are these أنعمت عليهم? Those that Allah bestowed His blessing upon them. Another place says, من يطع الله والرسول فأولئك مع الذين أنعم الله عليهم من النبيين والشهداء والصديقين والصالحين وحسن أولئك رفيقا. So أنعمت عليهم are نبيين, شهداء, صديقين, صالحين. And if you obey Allah and the Prophet, you will be with them. What is صراط مستقيم? Obedience. ألم أحد إليكم يا بني آدم لا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم. So the Quran explains everything. But you have to be able to bring all these ayat together. Sometimes maybe the same wording, similar wording. Sometimes maybe concepts are the same, not necessarily the words. So you cannot just use an index and say, for example, where is the kalama of sirat mentioned? Maybe it is sirat, maybe it's something else. You cannot only use the word, you know. For example, if you want to understand what is Quranic view about women, you cannot only look for verses in the Quran in which there is woman mentioned or women mentioned. If you want to understand the view of Quran about women, you should understand the view of Quran about men, human beings, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's reason for creation. Many, many things come together. It's a system. So, this is the method that many ulama have used But Allama Tabatabai rahmatullah alayh was the one who very clearly at the beginning of his tafsir introduced this as his methodology, and he was consistent. He was consistent about this. He brings other discussions. He refers to hadith, he brings sometimes philosophical discussion, sometimes he brings social discussion, but the first discussion is based on the Qur'an. Some people say, no, we cannot understand the Qur'an by ourselves. We can only understand the Qur'an based on the hadith, especially akhbariyun. I don't know if you are familiar with akhbari movement. So they had this idea that zawahirul kitab are not hujjah. In usul al-fiqh, we have this terminology. We say every text which is mubayyan, because we have mujmal and mubayyan. Mubayyan means clear, mujmal means ambiguous. Then mubayyan is either nas or zahir. Nas means 100% is clear. One meaning. You cannot think of second possibility. It's nas. Means explicit. Zahir means there is a meaning that it's more likely to happen first. And there are other possibilities that normally public opinion ignore those other possibilities. So something that 70%, 80% is the case, and the chance that it is the other meanings is ignored unless there is an evidence that forces us to move from al-ma'na al-zahiri to another meaning. For example, if I say I owe this man £1 million, what is al-ma'na al-zahiri? Is that I really owe him £1 million. Yeah? But then if later I say, I didn't mean I owe him actually one. I meant he has done me so many good things that if I want to put it into financial terms, it's like 1 million. No one accepts it. So you admitted that you owe him £1 million. Because this is al-ma'na al-zahiri. If you meant something else, you had to make it clear. Okay? So, if there is nas, 100% akhbariyun say it's okay. But if it is zahir, which is most of the time, then akhbariyun say we cannot understand zawahirul kitab. We have to refer it to Rasulullah and Ahlul Bayt. Because hadith says, إِنَّمَا يَعْرَفُ الْقُرْآنَ مَنْ خُوطِبَ بِهِ. The only one who understands the Qur'an is the one who is addressed by Qur'an, means Rasulullah. We don't understand. So these are akhbari Shia, okay? But there is a long discussion about this. Our ulama usuliyun have very well addressed this. Sheikh Ansari rahmatullah alayh has a very good discussion in his book Rasail, which is Fara'id al-Usul, about this issue. And he brings ayat from the Qur'an and also hadith from Ahlul Bayt that we are able to understand. Ahlul Bayt themselves were training Shia to argue based on the Qur'an. Even Ahlul Bayt used to say, whenever we tell you something, ask us for Qur'anic reference. They were training Shia. Because, if you just say, Imam Sadiq said this, then maybe someone doesn't believe in the authority of Imam Sadiq. But if you ask Imam Sadiq, oh Imam, how did you come to this knowledge? And he teaches you, then you can explain it to people who are not Shia. So they used to say, for example, we say for masah, for wiping head, it's enough to be part of head. Imam Sadiq said, part of it is enough. Why? He didn't say, because I tell you. He said, لِمَكَانِ الْبَاءِ. Because Qur'an says, وَامْسَحُوا بِرُؤُوسَكُمْ. Doesn't say وَامْسَحُوا رُؤُوسَكُمْ. Biru, ba is for ilsaq in Arabic. It means just touch. So, you should, with your hand, touch your head and do some wiping. Doesn't need to be all your head. لِمَكَانِ الْبَاءِ. Yes? And just recently I saw something beautiful from Sheikh Qira'ati, which was interesting. He said, ayah in the Quran says, وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. And he said, your ihsan must touch your parents. Ilsaq. So you cannot just send them from distance. You have to make sure that also you visit them, or if you want to give something, give with your hand, not just from distance, which was interesting point. Because ba is for ilsaq, means connection, touch must take place. So, Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam used to refer to the Quran, used to ask Shia to ask for Quranic reference. Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam have told us whenever there is conflict between hadith, present them to the Quran. اعرضوا على كتاب الله. If there is any hadith against Quran, throw it at the wall. So if we cannot understand the Quran, then what does it mean? So we believe that the Quran can be understood if you are following proper methodology, if you have knowledge. But you must not ignore hadith, because you may make mistake. So you try to understand the Quran based on the Quran, but also check ahadith, because maybe you are making a mistake. You cannot say, I don't need hadith. No, we need hadith. Otherwise it becomes like those who said, Hasbuna kitabullah. We cannot ignore hadith. We need hadith. We need to refer to hadith. Allama Tabatabai, as you see Al-Mizan, after he makes Quranic discussion, then many times he has bahthun rawa'i. He mentions hadith about that ayah and tries to check. But if you don't have that Quranic understanding, you may not even understand hadith properly, or you may just take one hadith and come up with a strange idea. You have to have your systematic study of subjects. Alim understands that which hadith is weak, which hadith is not weak, whether it is authentic or not, whether its delala is clear or not. And you cannot ignore hadith, but you cannot also say that Quran without hadith is not clear. The other method is the method which is hadith based. We call Tafsir al-Quran al-Riwa'i, or bil-Riwaya, bil-Hadith. Means they only bring ahadith about the verses that they want to study. They don't go further. So if you, for example, in the Shia, we have books like this. In Sunni Islam, we have books like this. For example, we have Nur al-Thaqalain. In Sunni Islam, we have Durr al-Manthur by Suyuti. These are Riwai, Tafsir al-Riwai. Means mostly what they do, they bring ayah or a passage, sometimes a little discussion about lughat, about the word, and sometimes even they don't have that. Then immediately they bring hadith. Hadith which have come about that subject, or, that passage, for example, they mention. They don't have any other discussion. It's just based on the hadith. Therefore, sometimes you see in 2 volumes, there is whole tafsir of Quran. Because they bring only hadith about the verses that are addressed in the hadith. Yeah? Because it's not that we have hadith about all verses of the Quran. At least we have not received so many hadiths. Nowadays, with the help of computer and bringing all the references together, we may have more hadith about, but still we don't have hadith for all 6,000 or 200 some verses. So this is Tafisr al-Riwai, which is good, but it is not sufficient. Then there are some people, especially in the 19th, 20th century, who mostly follow science-based tafsir. If I say scientific, I hope it's not misunderstood. It means science-based, based on empirical science. Because science in the 18th, 19th centuries, was booming, and many people had the idea that soon all problems of humanity will be solved by science. In the 18th century, 19th centuries, this was the idea, that because there was a big shift after, especially industrial revolution. So they had the idea that science is the measure for everything. Everything will be fixed by science, and we should interpret everything by science. So sometimes any miracle in the Quran, they try to explain it naturally, not supernaturally. For example, if Musa alayhi salam managed to cross the Nile and take people with him, they said it was because of moon eclipse. And sometimes you see water goes down, and or for example, when it's about army of Abraha, they say they suffered from a disease killed them. So they try to explain everything just based on empirical science. This is not good, because you are distorting the message. Yes, if you have knowledge of science, is good, because in the Quran we have things which are much appreciated by scientists, about embryology, about astronomy, there are geography, there are things which are appreciated by scientists. But if you want to force Quran to become a scientific book, and for everything you bring a scientific measure and force the Quran, that's not good. They say there was a king who had a bed, and he was forcing people to sleep on this bed. But if they were taller, he was cutting their leg. And if they were shorter, he was stretching them till they become like that bed. Some people, na'uzubillah, do this with the Quran. They impose their ideas on the Quran, and based on that either shorten the Quran or stretch the Quran. But Quran is a book of guidance. You should not impose. If you are a great philosopher, very good. But don't impose philosophy on the Quran. If you are a scientist, if you are a mathematician, if you are a physician, if you are a philosopher, if you are a faqih, if you are arif, very good. But what should these do? They should open your mind so that if there is something relevant, you understand, you don't miss it. They should open you, not that they close your mind and you look at everything with that filter. If I have studied philosophy, for example, that should help me to understand philosophical ideas in the Quran. Not that everything mentioned in the Quran, I bring my philosophical ideas and limit the Quran to those ideas that I have. This is wrong. So, this is why, this is a very important question for tafsir. Your knowledge, your experiences, your questions, your problems cannot be ignored. They are in your mind. But as long as they just make you more curious, they open your mind more, they are good. But if they are limiting your mind and understanding and forming your idea before going to the Quran, that's a problem. We say Quran is a ma'idah. Ma'idah means a table. Okay? When you go to the table that Allah has set for you, you shouldn't take with you your own food and say, I want, to eat my own food here. Or, everything that is there, you take your own chili and add there. No. If there is a need for chili, it's there. You cannot add your own chili and make something which is sweet, hot. Or bring your sugar and make something which is hot, sweet. Something in the Quran is hot, something is sweet. You should appreciate. Okay? So, your expertise, your experiences, your background knowledge can only make you more sensitive, more alert, increase your appetites, but don't impose them on the Quran. Let the Quran speak to you. Like when you go to an alim, you put your ideas in the mouth of alim, or you let the alim speak to you. Some people sometimes ask a question 10 minutes and then they expect alim to just say one word. No, you make question short, let the alim give answer. Yeah, if you want to learn. But if you want to impose, that's another thing. So, when we go to the Quran, we go with open mind, open heart, with thirst for understanding, with hunger for knowledge, and then inshallah we will learn. So, science-based tafsir, if it is going to limit the Quran and force Quran to follow rules and laws of the empirical sciences, it's a problem. But if it helps you to understand and appreciate scientific ideas there, without limiting everything to science, that's okay. Another method is mystical interpretation, which is also called at-tafsir al-irfani, at-tafsir al-batini. Batin means like esoteric interpretation. Or at-tafsir al-ishari. Ishara means hint. So, irfani is very good. In principle, we are very appreciative of irfan, in real irfan, true irfan. But again, irfan as a discipline should not be taken as a measure for understanding and everything, and then you force Quran to speak with this measure. Because some people tried to bring their own mystical ideas out of the Quran. This is not working. For example, one of the famous experts of irfan, at least theoretical irfan, when he talks about وَاتَّخِذُوا مِن مَقَامِ إِبْرَاهِيمَ مُصَلَّى, about Baytullah and Kaaba and Maqam Ibrahim, he says Bayt is heart and Maqam Ibrahim is ruh. This is ta'wil. This cannot be tafsir. Tafsir is to start from the literal meaning and go to deeper layers. Not that you bypass the literal meaning and just come up with some idea and say, this is what, based on my irfan, I understand. Okay, if you understand like this, it's good for you. If I am going to accept, you have to show me. How did you come up with this understanding? Anyone who tells you this is tafsir of Quran has to show you how he has come to this conclusion. And the beginning point is the text. Any tafsir which is not loyal to the text is not tafsir. It's ta'wil. Ta'wil, of course, has different meanings. This is one meaning of ta'wil, because ta'wil has also good meanings. Sometimes it's different. So, or for example, in another verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَالْأَرْضَ وَضَعَهَا لِلْأَنَامِ. and created the earth for people. They say earth means body. Means God created body for you. How can earth be body? It's not tafsir. You are talking about a new thing, no problem. You can say something, but don't say this is tafsir. So, if an arif, an expert, an irfan, follows proper methodology, like Allama Tabatabai, for example, like Imam Khomeini, they bring irfani ideas from the Qur'an, but they can show you step by step how it goes back to the text. That's good. But if someone says, I had a dream last night, or I saw Rasulullah, he told me this, these are not something that we can accept. It's good for yourself, this maximum. Even this is doubted, because sometimes these are illusions. But the maximum is good for yourself. You can enjoy it. We don't accept anything unless it is based on clear methodology. And please always remember, any science, whether it is tafsir, kalam, fiqh, akhlaq, has to be collective. In the sense that it should be in the public domain. No one can say, I have a way to understand that it's not available to you. Okay, if there is such a thing, it is not called science. It's not called discipline. It's not fiqh. If someone says, I know that this is the ruling, but he doesn't bring any evidence from fiqh, we cannot accept. Anything which is scientific, anything which is scholarly, should be available for examination of other people, other scholars. It's very important. Otherwise, we would then end up with people developing their own subjective ideas and calling it religion. So, this is a summary of different methods. I wanted to mention something about how to relate to the Quran. Unfortunately, our time is limited, but let me just mention at least one hadith, and inshallah this discussion can continue. I wanted to talk about what does it mean to believe in the Quran. Iman. آمن الرسول بما أنزل إليه من ربي والمؤمنون كل آمن بالله وكتبه ورسله. What does it mean to do iman بالكتاب? I wanted to talk about what is the meaning of hamlul Quran, to carry the Quran. What does it mean to carry the Quran? What does it mean to respect the Quran? Okay? But unfortunately we don't have time, but at least I want to mention one hadith. So, Iman, carrying, and respect. There are several hadiths, but this is the hadith that I want to end our course on this term with this. This hadith is from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in which he said, فَمَنْ وَقَّرَ الْقُرْآنِ فَقَدْ وَقَّرَ اللَّهِ. Whoever respects the Qur'an has respected Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَمَنْ لَمْ يُوَقِّرِ الْقُرْآنِ فَقَدْ اسْتَخَفَّ بِحُرْمَةِ اللَّهِ. If someone doesn't respect the Qur'an, has underestimated the respect that Allah has. You know, imagine I give you my book. Then I come to your home and then I see, you have put my book, in the rubbish or, in a cupboard, under tons of other things. My heart will be broken. How many, years I have spent on this book and gave it to you as a gift, and now you're doing this with my book? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us Qur'an, and if we don't show respect to the Qur'an, that means we are not respectful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And respect to the Qur'an is not just to put the Qur'an on the shelf and kiss it every day. Respect to the Qur'an is to act according to the Qur'an. Then Rasulullah said, وَحُرْمَةُ الْقُرْآنِ عَلَى اللَّهِ كَحُرْمَةِ الْوَالِدِ عَلَى وَلَدِهِ. The respect that Allah has for the Qur'an is the respect that a child has for his parent. Of course, Allah is greater than the Qur'an, but in human terms, you show your great respect to your parents. This is how much Allah respects the Qur'an. So, if you want to get closer to Allah, be more respectful to the Qur'an. And respect to the Qur'an is to act according to the Qur'an. If an alim gives you advice, what's the respect to his advice? To print it and put it on the shelf and kiss it and do something else? And recite it beautifully every day, but do something else? Or whether you print it or not, whether you recite it or not, put it into practice. Of course, it's better to recite it, it's better to print it, but practice is the main thing. If there is a good doctor that gives you prescription, what do you do with the prescription? You print it black and white and color, make a movie about it, recite it in different languages, make a museum of this prescription, but then do something else? Or as soon as possible, you take the prescription. So this is respect for prescription. This is respect for advice. So, if someone respects Qur'an, he has respected Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If someone has not respected the Qur'an, has not respected Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah inshallah include us among the people who wholeheartedly respect the Qur'an, who physically, but also mentally, intellectually, psychologically, spiritually, in every aspect, they respect the Qur'an. Let the Qur'an be our guide in dunya and our shafi' in akhirah, inshallah. Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen.